Okay, I'm gonna do a video on colorism, and this one is gonna be just basically about my opinions on it. I don't really feel I have any experience with colorism. Like, people who talk about like colorism with like how they feel like they're treated like they're too dark or they're treated like they're too light. I've never really been treated that way. If anything, I've always been told I was like the right color. I put my hands up for that. Honestly, if you ask me, I do feel like I'm the right color. But I think everybody thinks they're the right color. They should, at least. But anyway, so as far as my personal experience, I've never really experienced anything as far as my skin tone at all. But I have experienced like some stuff with like dark skinned people, I guess. Sometimes. Like, my issues aren't like quite like what people say the whole colorism dynamic is. It's like where dark skinned women go after light skinned women or whatever, and light skinned women are just getting attacked or something, or hating on dark skin, or making fun of dark skinned women or something. I don't experience those things. I do experience, like, from the male side of it, problems a bit. What I experience is this, where, like, I'll experience dark-skinned women for one thing. I've had it where, like, but we get along good, we get in an argument, then it's all bad, and then they start trying to, like, lie on you and say, like, you're being, like, racist or something to them. I've had that happen. And it's, like, weird. Like, for me, it was like, are you gonna try and act that way towards me? Like, I don't know, that was just really odd. I mean, I wasn't even, like, the lightest in there. Like, there was actually one girl that was between the four of us that was lighter, was real light skin. And she was actually literally racist. She would say stuff that was like, oh god. You grew up in like a racist, kind of like Samoan household, black dad, and she had a very warped view of black people. It was funny. But yeah, it was like weird, like you're trying to do it against me just because I was like, we had an argument basically on like being gay, and it was like I was just like saying like I didn't feel comfortable with something, and she just blew up, and then she was trying to act like, you know, like I was being racist, telling other people I was racist just because of that. And it was all off of color because she was darker and I was lighter, and it's just very weird. But generally, like, I sometimes get like things like that. Not to that extreme from dark skinned people, but usually like where dark skinned people will ask what you're mixed with and think it's a compliment. And I'm like looking like that is not a compliment. Like, so is being black an insult? You know what I mean? And if mixed is a compliment, then what is being white? Let's just be real. So for me, I mean, like, I always was just like, I didn't like those kind of comments and those responses to me, because it's always like, you know, felt like, I felt like, you know, you're showing hate towards yourself and it's making me uncomfortable, you know. Um, then the other side of it is just like with light skinned people, it's not. I've never been made fun of by light skinned people on my skin tone ever. More my issue has always been like light skinned people would be like upset, and this goes back to the male side of it for me. And this happens much more often than the other thing. The other thing, every once in a while, a black person will ask if you're mixed in a compliment way, and it's like, you know, that's not the way to try and act like mixed is better than black. please, that's rude. But from light-skinned people, it's always been where, like, light-skinned people are just, like, dark-skinned man, they like a dark-skinned man, and then a dark-skinned man is, like, hitting on me. And I am not really partial to skinned men. I don't like dark-skinned men. I generally like men who are, like, my color, maybe a little darker. Like, I like the caramel butterscotch, and then, like, maybe a little bit of brown sugar. In that range right there. That's generally my preference of men. But I don't usually like dark-skinned men. So it will always be like, I'm not hitting on them, I'm not interested, I'm probably rejecting them. But at the same time, there's always this light-skinned girl who's really light-skinned, or she could be my color, or she could even be brown-skinned. And she'll be angry at me and want to get at me like I did something wrong. And it's like, for me, from my point of view, I'm like, what do I do? I'm not being partial. If you, like, look at how I'm reacting to the situation, you'd be able to realize I don't have any interest. But at the same time, it's always like, those kind of women are always, like, a problem in that sense. So those are basically the only, like, problems I've ever had. And the light skin end of it, it's just, that's natural. Honestly, like, people who look similar to another person may be more upset at that person because they're like, we have the same appeal, we have the same things, whatever. So I don't even really hold that against anyone in that respect. I'm just saying those are my experiences with colorism. And my experience with colorism, I feel like people who are darker always act like being lighter skinned, that you benefit from the men that that want to basically be with you or whatever because you're lighter. And I don't feel like that is a benefit, because I feel like most of the time it's always ending up in an argument. It's always hostile. The reason why it's hostile is because most of the time the dark-skinned man will be angry when you reject him. So how does that benefit me when there's, like, really angry, scary, hostile men coming at me and I'm trying to get, like, as far away from them as I can? How is that a benefit to me? So that's one issue that I have with it. Secondarily, like, I feel like dark-skinned women are more respected as black women. They're more seen as a true black woman. They are more seen as our true black beauty. And so then for me, I always feel like, like a knockoff. Like, it's not as strong and as authentic as theirs. And, with standards of beauty, they have a standard of beauty. And I know they always say they don't, and that light-skinned women are more the ideal, but what they're talking about isn't even really the ideal of colorism. The ideal beauty of colorism is not light-skinned women, in my opinion. The ideal beauty in colorism is a white woman, probably with blonde hair and blue eyes, because that's the lighter the better. And in America, we have quite a lot more white women than we have of dark-skinned black women, definitely more than light-skinned black women who are a minority compared to dark-skinned black women, and they have more of a majority than Latinos, mixed race, whichever one you want to say. So, for me, that's the difference in how people perceive, basically, colorism, because I feel like colorism doesn't exist really any more than, like, white supremacy exists. White supremacy exists And I don't really see the difference in colors, and people say it's in the black community. No, because in the black community, white women are still seen as better than light-skinned women, biracial women, Hispanic women, black women who are dark-skinned, brown-skinned women. So it's just like constantly there's always people that are much less than them seen in the black community. And in many minority communities, honestly. Hispanic, I don't know about Asian. But yeah. So I don't really get how people can really say that, that light skinned women benefit from colorism when they're still put below white women. They're still put below Hispanic women. Because they're seen as black still, so they're still seen as kind of like basically in a racist idea tainted. So, I mean, like, I feel like a lot of the time they're just basically saying from the dark skin point of view, boo hoo, I have it worse than you. But at the end of the day, I don't even really feel they have it less than us, really. I don't really feel they have it less than anyone. I feel like it's just like dark skinned people, they have a different fight. They have a different problem, you know? Well, like light skinned people, like the lightest of the light, for example, like Faith Evans, uh, even a Halsey for that matter. Halsey, for example, has curly hair. Her hair is not going to be celebrated compared to a white woman with blonde hair, blue eyes, and straighter hair. That she's not going to be as celebrated. Her nose is actually wider than theirs, too. So, I mean, like, pit it against each other, she's still going to be less than. And she's white passing. So, I mean, if colorism doesn't benefit her and still puts her as a lesser woman in that sense of white supremacy, how is colorism benefiting any light-skinned person? How is colorism benefiting any non-white person? That's what I don't understand. I think, like, if you think it benefits anyone, then you must not realize there were plenty of white people in this country. You don't realize, basically, because you're not from this country, or I don't know, you just live in a small world of your own. I don't know. But I understand that that's more so, I feel like, where dark skinned women want to feel like they are more victimized so then they can basically hone in more power from that. Now, light skinned women, I feel like light skinned women who kind of like want to believe in that whole dynamic, it's because, well, wouldn't anyone want to feel like they're better than other people, especially after the fact that they've been told all their lives that they were actually less than? And a lot of light skinned women have experienced the feeling of feeling less than white women. This always happens for all women of color if you're in America. That's just how it is if you're dealing with white supremacy. Because, as we call it, colorism, the lighter the better. Well, there's always someone lighter than us. So, I mean, to me, that's how I feel. I feel like with light skinned women, I don't feel like there's a benefit, and therefore there is no colorism, there's racism. And I feel like with, you know, um, light skinned women that want to believe it, they generally seem to be always the ones who want to be with darker skinned men. And the reason and the whole logic behind this shows that they don't really feel they're better. Because, like, if you felt you were better, you would never be with something that you feel is less than, that could possibly destroy your offspring from having what you think is better than another person. It's kind of obvious. This is what racism is. Racism never really actually encourages you to be with other races. It's quite the opposite. And I don't know, people don't seem to be smart enough to even know that. I don't know. what's wrong with some people in that respect, but they don't seem to know that. But for me, I mean, like, it's kind of like obvious, you know, that, I mean, like, if you're with someone who's darker skinned, then you obviously don't think you are better, but you want to feel like you're better because it's kind of like a chain reaction. Like, white women make them feel less than, and now they're trying to implement what they felt from the white woman, so then they could at least feel like they're better. I understand that feeling. For me, it's just never been worth destroying my what I like. Because for me, I mean, I actually really do like my complexion. I've always felt like I don't want to be white. I don't want to be dark. I would rather be what I am. And that's why I've always, like, preferred other men that were my complexion. Because it's always been like, if you prefer something else, then you clearly did not value what you had enough to stay within. It's kind of obvious. I don't know. But yeah, so I think this whole idea of colorism and stuff, I feel like people try and act like it's like to hold dark skinned people down. And it's like, if this was really to hold dark skinned people down, then how come this whole dynamic is to basically make light skin outbreed itself with dark skin? Because I mean, like, with light skinned women with dark skinned men and light skinned men with dark skinned women, how are we gonna keep our genes, you know? So I mean, like, what? How is colorism, this idea of it, really about, you know, uplifting light skin? It's not. It's not in that sense. It's erasing it. Secondarily, it's not putting it on a pedestal because white women are already on that pedestal, and white men for that matter. And I mean, like, it's not a benefit for, like, any other respect, because, like, they're still gonna be treated pretty racist when it comes to, like, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. They're gonna be racist against them for being part black anyway. So that's what I mean. People who say colorism exists, it always seems like they're from, like, a deep, deep, deep seated hood, and they've not been out a lot, or they have probably been traumatized, ran back. I don't know. But that's just how I feel about the whole issue. Colorism, I think, is more racism. I don't feel like colorism really exists. Also, on top of that, I mean, like, for me, I grew up with a dark skinned mother, and I was always raised where she was considered very beautiful, and I was always encouraged, like, I should look more like her, not like lighter would be better. I always thought darker would be better. And honestly, growing up, like, around other dark skinned people, I noticed many of the time they were complimented. So, I mean, like, I don't really see how they are really treated like they're less than light skinned women. I feel like they're actually allowed to be free and open, and for the beautiful dark skinned women, I think they are validated and told that they're beautiful. So, yeah, that's just how I see it. Alright, I'm done.